Where are the greatest interventions that you are making for these young people? Because I hear African leaders say, people must study maths and science. What if I don't want to study maths and science? What if I want to be an artist? I can still make a great contribution to the economy. What do you say about lateral thinking?
Thank you very much. I am myself in the humanities. And I think I'm in the most interesting of all the disciplines. I'm in literature. But believe me, artists need mathematics. Musicians need physics. It is at the basis of everything. It is just the way we have taught it, as if it's a rarefied subject away from ourselves. Let me use a very practical example of a child whose mother processes palm oil, from the nut to the oil. If this is not science, I don't know what science is. But you will not find it in the textbook. You will not find it in the lab. And therefore, this education that this child is getting has very little impact. This is just an example. But I think that there are many, many more. So it is not about the emphasis on science and math at the detriment of others. We're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about industrialization. We need these subjects. But more importantly, is the medium through which the subject is taught. I've heard Dr. Kim talk about Africa in 2015 compared to Korea. Nothing stopped Korea from using their language. By using their language, it didn't stop them from making the vehicles and the TVs and the phones that we import. Because Koreans were taught in a language they understood, education picked up. Because we are teaching our children a language they can't even follow, we are drawing them back. So there are... Thank you. The real change for me is not about reviewing the curriculum. It's not about the extension or contraction. It is about relevance. The world has talked about access. In the MDGs, we focus on primary education. 15 years. And let me remind all of us that the children who were in P1 15 years ago, at the end of 15, were 21. I'm sure they are part of the audience now. So at the time you were thinking of primary school, you should be moving up. You shouldn't say that we need only primary education. I've got the data. If somebody stays in school for 1 year, it translates into $90. That's not what we need. Right. What we need is to ensure that you are teaching children in ways, the Ghanaian children are so bright, and that's what makes me so passionate. Yeah. Here are bright children. And most of them are trapped in the basic schools, in the public schools. Right. We should never get to a level where we accept that the basic schools are failed. Here is a place where 70% of the children attend school in this country. Yeah. We leave them behind, we leave ourselves behind. Because we will live with them. Yeah. They will come into your homes to fix your fridge. And when it doesn't work anymore, don't ask me why. And I believe that every subject can be taught. If science is taught in the language the child understands, and he becomes a tailor's most important instrument is a tape measure. It's a scientific instrument. It's a mathematical instrument. Okay. A seamstress's most important item is the tape measure also. When you go there, what do? They measure you. They're already speaking mathematics. So how come they were not good in math? Because you taught them wrongly in a medium they couldn't relate to. Yeah. That we can remove, and let me tell you, we will change this country.
All right.
That was the former Minister of Education, now the NDC running mate, receiving applause, by the way, from the audience.
Yeah, because when you are talking about teaching in your language, and Africanists are in the room, and white people are in the room, they are telling the white people, we don't want to speak your language anymore, to hell with your language.
Yes.
So you're going to get that applause.
What's wrong with that?
But when you come to Ghana, and I'm glad she said 70% of our children are stuck in our public schools. That 30% that are becoming the engineers and the medical doctors of this country are taught in English language.
Yes.
The 70% from poor background like me, many years ago like me, are the ones that he's talking about.
Yes.
And he's saying that we should be taught in our native language.
Yes.
And that native language is going to keep us all the way behind.
Why?
And the rich kids who are taught in English language are the ones who are passing the BECE. They are the ones who are going to Wesley Girls and going to all the top performing schools, and we should be taught in our language. Let me tell you, there's no research that says that if you are taught in your language, you do better. The only issue is that in this country, we don't know how to teach to students whose second language is English. Because we are not mastering, we are not teaching our teachers the strategies for teaching English as a second language. We have strategies for teaching English as a second language.
How do we teach
We have
it now?
researchers like Krashen, for example. There's a difference between language acquisition and language learning. When you want students to acquire English language so that they can be proficient and then they can speak it, the research says you have to create a zero anxiety classroom environment, a place where children will feel so free to chat with you and talk to you. And by the time you realize they've mastered the language, then you move to the second phase, which we call language learning. That is where you worry about the ABCD and the grammar and everything that goes with it. We are not doing a good job because we don't know how. It's not because we are teaching our children in our languages and we are not teaching them in our languages. That's why they are not doing well. Singapore has one of the best education systems in the world, and they are not taught in their native language. They are taught in English language because they are not a monolithic, monolingual society. Come to Accra, and you have 20 languages in a school. And which language is going to be used as the language of instruction? It's not practicable. We better
Well, they'll
teach.
say the language of the location of the school.
Okay, so you tell the Hausa guy that your son is going to be taught Ga, right? Because that's the language around here. That kid may not have even mastered the native language of Hausa. The mother may be a Tree person, the father is a Hausa, then you throw in Ga. The best way is to teach them in English.
I mean, what you said totally ridicules the policy that he's talking about.
No, because you see, that policy, when people were crapping, right?
But when she said native language, she probably meant any native language, not just one.
Let me tell you, the problem, the opportunities that are bound in Ghana, as he rightly said, is the children who are so ready to learn. But we have not done a very good job by these children, 70% of them. If the problem is the language of instruction, why is it that the private schools do better than the public schools? And
because they are spending more time on some teaching practice that works.
The thing is this, they are using English as a language of instruction. So if you think that is the problem, how is it that the 30% uses English as a language of instruction, and they are the ones who get to go to Wesley Girls and get to go to all the top performing
Did she not talk
schools.
about Japan?
No, he's talking about Korea.
Yeah.
That because Koreans use their language, they could afford to use their language. In Ghana, what language are we going to use? What are you talking about?
You mean Korea has a monolingual?
Oh, yes. So if you talk to us and talk about, yes, we have to use our native language. Native language, which one? So we have to teach students in various languages. When they get to the university, what happens to them? He's saying that, you see, when they started introducing the native tongue and talking about the native language, USAID translated about 11 languages only in this country, and there were 50 languages, 11 languages. Okay, now you know what happened. We cannot do, because of that, they cannot teach fractions in primary 3 because you don't have enough vocabulary in your language to teach some aspects of mathematics. So we could not teach fractions.
What is
in
fraction?
primary 3.
Half,
because,
3/4?
Yes, 1/2. We don't have that in the local languages. We have local languages, some of them have limited vocabulary. There are certain concepts in science that you cannot teach in the local language. We have English. What we need to do is to master how you teach English to students whose second language is English. And the research is there. Krashen and other people have come out with a way of teaching it. If you go to America, for example, California, we have Spanish students who I taught, and we call sometimes sheltered instruction strategies, where you have to enunciate the word slowly. You have to really mimic how the word is pronounced. You jump with them even if they are in high school and they have just come from Mexico. You have to do all those things. By the time you realize they've become immersed in the English language in such a way that they are speaking English and they are speaking Spanish, and they come to even outcompete the Americans. So the bottom line is this: if we are not doing well in our schools, it's not because we are not using Twi, we are not using Dagbani. Something is wrong with school supervision, which until this time were not done properly. The documentation that is there, the human capacity of the human capital index is so low in this country, and we haven't done a very good job at it because the various foundations that we needed to provide was simply non-existent. And that is why, if you look at Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's vision for education, he believes that education is what can transform the socio-economic fortunes of our people. But if you do not transform the education itself, then it will not be fit for purpose to undertake the socio-economic transformation agenda of the country. Therefore, you have to look at education. And she also said, Prof said something about relevance. Before you get to relevance analysis, don't forget quality in the middle there. So you have to look at the assets. You have to look at the quality in the middle. Then you go to the relevance of the education system. Now, once you take a look at all these three facets of education, then you are looking at how best you can prepare people who are well educated, who have the requisite skills in order for them to teach. You're talking about the quality. And that is why Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo said teachers cannot be taught, trained just for 2 years with 1 year practicum outside, and you put them in the classroom and you tell them to produce the best, the greatest minds that can help transform the fortunes of this country. Now you have 4-year degree, so that by 4 years you have done so much in the classroom and you know how it is to teach in the 21st century and bring about the transformation. There are interesting times ahead of us in terms of education and what we need to be talking about. But I think this is just one aspect of it, that this concept of native tongue, teach the children in their language. Most of us are not teaching our children in our language, and they get to be the best in the country. Some people have gone on to earn PhDs, and they've done fantastically well, and they were taught in English. Go to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, ask those who are doing medicine there, and ask them how many of them were taught in their native tongue when they were in class 1 and class 2 and class 3. They went to the international schools of this country. I don't believe in creating two Ghanas. Ghana for the rich and Ghana for the poor should not exist. What is good for those of us whose children are from upper middle class homes, we send our children to school and they teach them with English. The poor deserve so, and we better find a way to teach it to them and let them compete with us, so that it will not be said that we left them behind.